where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
When it comes down to the Foundry, the Boukman is really a guild that comes with every physical development and really comes before every development. In fact, I would say that they do the groundwork to prepare for the physical development. When it comes down to this particular guild, I would say they're kind of a guild that consists of local and civilian journalists or civilian journalists, right? And the idea is they're going to be responsible for a lot of things, but we should understand them as the front line of this idea of a renaissance, of a Blackbird Renaissance in general. And the idea is they'd be responsible for reporting on a variety of matters, including, I would say, the wealth of the area in general, in terms of understanding the wealth, the valuable jobs, the job markets, but also like the idea of really like the landscape of private equity companies and the investment made. That's, I would say, one thing. Another thing would be the education available and required. So like the sources for understanding the sources required for education reform, right? So the sort like really what's stopping, what's promoting, and understanding the idea of education reform in general. And when it comes down to education, the idea is municipal education. We're creating a standard for our citizenry in general, and when it comes down to today's society, it's very fair to say that we're failing at that. And in terms of why that is, it's important to really discover that. They would also be responsible for reporting on the main groups, the gatherings, and online presence of general people, or of the general populace, but also like creating suggestions for guilds for that particular area, and really creating an understanding and a blueprint for how this particular group of people can transition into the Renaissance in general. They'd also be responsible for reporting on the art and the artistry and the general gatherings around such in a given area. When it comes down to the concept here, arts and artistry and what happens in an area is going to be important, because the Foundry couples that with educating and connecting people to what goes on around them. Very, very, very much, something that society, or art and artistry, is something that society kind of devalues, but in terms of the power and really kind of understanding what the potential of artist and artistry in the idea of a renovation is something that we're very much aware of, and try to use and utilize when we can. They also report on the land holdings, and scout for places for the physical Foundry physical development physical development of the Foundry capital, and also understand and map out where the idea of where to really map out blackbird zoning, right? So how will this physical space transition? What can we kind of help, or understanding that in terms of the idea for the Foundry capital, or the physical placement of this mixed-use development, but also blackbird zoning, which we'll go over in another video in terms of understanding, or another segment for understanding the actual zoning, the zoning that we're advocating for, in terms of really trying to make things more appealing for a renaissance to take place in a given area. They'd also find local businesses and propose partnerships. Of course, when it comes down to the renovation of society now, not really of course, but the element of local businesses and small businesses are something that we really want to understand, an element of really stimulating the economy in that particular area, and how we can go about continuing and really multiplying this when possible. Also, they need to form an understanding of local coffee shops as well, and form a particular relationship with local coffee shops in general. So this idea of the Foundry, local coffee shops are really going to be very, very instrumental to every Foundry, in terms of the idea of the Foundry itself. It's going to have every Foundry is going to have a particular coffee shop that is going to be connected to, or kind of a result of the local coffee shops in that particular area, and the Foundry makes use, or the physical development itself, right? So, and the idea is that coffee shop, or that whatever kind of constitutes that connection, right? Whether it manifests as a physical coffee shop, which it probably will, the idea is that's going to be the home base for the Boukman Guild, and how they interface with really with the book, or how the locals interface with the Boukman Guild in general. So picture a place where they can locals can open investigations, or really try to really get or report certain things. This is where things are really, really this is where this guild operates, and really helps the idea of opening investigation, or reporting reporting things to kind of to spread throughout the area, to spread information throughout the area. Now, this idea of being in the Boukman Guild, and being a part of or being a bookman in general, this is something that is not necessarily, I say citizen journalist, and I kind of use that term to really describe it, but it's really a kind of it's a rigid process, right? And that process is going to involve a series of things, including whatever mobile device or mobile phone that you use, you should have either a de-Googled phone or a phone that is free from apps that are normally made available to the public. So like a lot of social media apps, and understanding like that this particular interface that's kind of standard for citizens, you'll have to give up. So the idea of the Boukman being connected to social media, there needs to be an understanding that your mobile device may not be particularly connected to these particular platforms, and instead you may have a particular there's something that fills that space. So whether that's through reporting, some kind of reporting quota that you have, or simply understanding and reading assignments, those things will fill that space for a lot of bookmen in general. And this is something that may not apply to every situation, but for most, I believe this is going to be the transition into becoming a part of this guild is going to be associated with disconnecting from a lot of elements of current lifestyle. When it comes down to this idea of being a bookman, you'd have to make a formal promise or commitment to never personally receive money from any organization, business, or political party, right? And the idea here is that you may be subject to regular to audits, and that if those things come up as a surprise, they may very much be something that catch you, that are a surprise to you. And the idea here is, if you are accepting money, there will have to be there'll have to be an actual meeting of the bookmen in your area about that particular case in general, and there'll have to be a hearing of sorts. Now, when it comes down to this element of accepting and becoming an official member, this is something that is going to be notated with a certificate of sorts, right? And a certificate to symbolize that you have crossed this threshold. And more information is going to be made available for those that do cross that threshold, or those that do decide to cross that threshold. But in any case, you're going to become a more active member in whatever form of media for your particular local bookman guild. And what happens in that area is going to be something that you take into, or you're taking into, in that commitment that you have with the bookman or with this particular guild is going to be something that you're going to is really going to be worked out on an individual case-by-case basis. And it is going to, like I said, you the idea of a Boukman, you guys would be the pioneers of the Renaissance and responsible for really creating and understanding what it takes to bring the Renaissance to given areas.